I'm Kitty, and this podcast is mine, Missing, Murdered, Unidentified in New England. I cover cases from the New England states of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Each episode takes place over the month of each year between January 1st, 2010 and December 31st, 2020. And based on sources, some episodes will be long and others will be short, as these cases don't generally have much information available. All of the research, scripting, opinions, and mistakes herein are my own, and I will offer updates and corrections when possible. I do not offer trigger warnings for wounds, as they are a necessary part of the narrative. I will trigger warn for such topics as suicide, animal death, domestic violence, etc. as needed. Now with that, please listen in as I tell you about October 2010. Updates October 2010. Ken Paiva and Michael Sylvia reported the following. On October 6, 2010, a man was quahogging near a vacant boat slip behind the Back Eddy restaurant in Westport, Mass. As he quahogged in this area, the man recovered what appeared to be a human skull from the water, which was approximately 8 to 10 feet deep. The man wrapped the skull in plastic and brought it to the Westport Police Station. The Massachusetts State Police Underwater Recovery Team responded and searched the area where the skull was found, but no other evidence or skeletal remains were recovered. The following day, the skull was transported to the medical examiner's office for further examination. The medical examiner confirmed that it was a human skull, and a further examination by a forensic anthropologist suggested that the skull most likely belonged to a Caucasian male whose age would have ranged from approximately 30 to 70 years, and whose death was at a minimum 6 months prior to the discovery, but could have occurred years before then. Further investigation revealed that there have been 3 men who have died or lost in boating mishaps near the entrance to Westport Harbor during the 1970s. Although portions of 2 of these men were later recovered, their skulls were not. The human skull recovered in this case was subsequently sent for DNA testing. Although a DNA profile was successfully extracted, it was insufficient to upload to CODIS. Testing is underway using a DNA sample that was provided by a family member to assist in making identification of this individual. If that testing is not successful, this case will be further reviewed for forensic genetic genealogical testing. The partial skeletal remains of a male between the ages of 26 to 77 of an undetermined race were discovered in Westport, Mass. On October 6, 2010. The torso, 1 or more limbs, and 1 or more hands were not recovered. While searching for clams at the Back Eddy restaurant boat slips at 1 Bridgeport Road, Westport, Mass., in 8 to 10 feet of water, underneath a vacant boat slip, a quahogger discovered the partial remains. The remains were pulled from the river bottom and thought to be 6 months deceased, give or take, which leads to a death somewhere in April 2010. Web Sleuths has submitted Gerald P. Shaw Jr., featured in Episode 4, as a potential match. No exclusions have been made. Please call 1-617-267-6767. Frederick Freddy Mathieson is memorialized in the Garden of Peace, a place that serves as a memorial to victims of homicide, a place where families, friends, and the larger community may remember and honor the lives of those taken by violence and serve as a visual testament of the need to eliminate it. At the same time, the garden serves as a symbol of hope, peace, and renewal. Freddy was 35, a father of 2, and studying HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, at Kaplan, also referred to as a refrigeration student, and trying to improve his life and the lives of those he loved. Freddy lived part-time at Cathedral Project Authority and lived part-time with his girlfriend. This same girlfriend wished she could have told Freddy she loved him. Freddy performed music under the name Freddy Flacco and dreamed of buying his mom a home out of the projects, which is a noble dream given his family didn't have enough money to bury Freddy. Someone shot Freddy 4 times in the chest at A2 Harrison Archway at Cathedral Housing Authority project. Different accounts state that Freddy was going to the studio like an any ordinary day, while other reports state that Freddy wasn't normally in that area. However, he was there to meet his daughter after school. Freddy formerly worked for Comcast as a technician. Freddy's mom, Anne, heard shots at 11:40 a.m. and called his sister Danee at 1:40 p.m. to tell her the news. The local police department was nearby, heard the shots, and were there in seconds. Police determined that Freddy was not robbed. Please call 1-617-343-4250. Trigger warning, domestic violence. There is a trigger warning of domestic violence in this case, as well as resources. Please call 1-800-799-7233 if you or someone you know is suffering from domestic violence. Lynne Melk Brennan was 53, funny, loving, and caring. She was the mother of 3 sons, ages 27, 24, and 22, and was a teen model for American Girls in the mid-1970s. Lynne was going through a divorce at the time of her murder from her husband of 30 years, John D. Brennan. Lynne received help from the Domestic and Sexual Advocate Centers, Bridges, in Nashua, New Hampshire, who can be reached at 1-603-889-0858 if you need their help. Lynne had only lived in her apartment at 267 North River Road, Manchester, New Hampshire, for a few months prior to her death, and had resided in Hudson, New Hampshire for years before then. Lynne was last seen in public at Bunny's Superette at 75 Webster Street at about 3:29 p.m. on October 4th, 2010. Lynne was murdered sometime before October 10th, 2010. A friend called the police for a welfare check as nobody had heard from Lynne in 1 week. Lynne's body was discovered on October 11th, 2010, and decomposition had begun. According to sources, Lynne wasn't the type to put herself in any danger, and there were no signs of forced entry. Someone made a tip about a white car with New York plates, and it is unsaid if this tip led anywhere or if it was even investigated by the Cold Case Squad. Please call 1-603-668-8711 with any information. Tahisha Milton was a 39-year-old mom of 4 from Roxbury, Mass., a 1989 graduate of Cathedral High School, and was scheduled to receive her BA in Human Services from Springfield College. Tahisha was a doting mom who had recently thrown her daughter a Sweet 16 party. Tahisha was a youth leader in church as well as an activist in her community. One of Tahisha's last conversations was 2 hours before she was killed, when her son told her that he was going to get a haircut, that he loved her, and he would see her later. Later that day, at 3 p.m., Tahisha was an innocent bystander at Quick Stop, a convenience store located at 337 Warren Street, Roxbury, Mass., less than a mile away from her residence, when either an SKS or AK-47 was used to shoot at least 2 people, killing Tahisha. The clerk was shot and ran out to call 911. According to one source, a preliminary investigation discovered this was not a random shooting. Tahisha was not the target, though, and robbery was not the motive. It was the owner of Quick Stop, named Sanusi Mo Kaba, that was thought to be the target. After Tahisha's senseless killing, there were 100-plus people at a candlelight vigil held in her honor. There was also a citywide debate sparked about the length of time memorials should be kept up because of the length of time Tahisha's street-side memorial was kept up. Please call 1-617-343-4270 if you have any information. Nothing is publicly known about Jermaine Barry, a 30-year-old dad of 2 sons. Jermaine's young life included a criminal history of a 1997 assault and battery of an officer, a 2003 assault and battery, and a 2006 carrying a firearm without a license. Jermaine was shot in the throat and killed at the intersection of 481 Geneva Street and Waldock Street in Dorchester, Mass. At 8 p.m. on October 26, 2010, and was taken to Boston Medical Center. Jermaine's mother, Ethel Barry, ID'd Jermaine's body after cops came to her door. Police left Crime Stoppers pamphlets under the wipers of neighbors. Please call Dorchester PD at 1-617-343-4300. Ricardo, Ricky, Adam Encarnacion Sr. was 28, a fun dude to be around, a good guy, really funny, and chill. Ricky also had a criminal record, which consisted of domestic assault, motor vehicle violations, and drug arrests. Ricky is survived by 2 children, 2 brothers, a mom, grandparents, and cousins. Ricky was a prominent part of the Latin Kings, a violent and deadly gang known throughout most of the U.S. There was a power struggle in the Latin Kings, alleged grudge over a bad drug deal or as retaliation from a house party with rival gang members. There was an argument 3 months earlier at the same intersection where Ricky would later be shot, where the cops got involved and the men had to be separated. Ricky got arrested that day because he tried to go after the men again. Ricky was born in Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico, and shot and killed in a drive-by shooting while relaxing on the porch of 325 North Front Street in New Bedford, Mass. Ricky was shot several times at 4:30 a.m. near Tallman Street. Evelyn Diaz called 911 when she heard the gunshots. Evelyn described Ricky as a son to her. Ricky now resides forever in Oak Grove Cemetery. Over 150 Latin King gang members came to pay respects, made a truce with police, and the police closed off the area to allow the Latin Kings to pay their respects as long as no trouble broke out. As far as I'm aware, everyone kept their word. We know nothing of Ricky's time with the Latin Kings, only who he was to his family and friends. Regardless of his gang affiliation, he deserves justice, just as those who are victims of the Latin Kings. What witnesses there were uncorroborative. If you or anyone you know has any information leading to the whereabouts of Ricky's murderer, please call 1-800-494-TIPS. Orvin Blanding was 40 years old when he was shot and killed at 1150 Harrison Ave in Roxbury, Mass. at 12:30 a.m. on Halloween 2010. Orvin was transported to Boston Medical Center where he was pronounced deceased. Please call 1-617-343-4470 or 1-800-494-TIPS. We stay in Roxbury, Mass. on Halloween 2010. It was mid-morning at 9:40 a.m., where Richard Brown, a 41-year-old Boston native, was gunned down by multiple bullets at 60 Catawba Street in Roxbury, Mass. If you have any information, please call 1-617-343-4470 or 1-800-494-TIPS. If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, please email me at minepodcast@gmail.com. All one word, and mine is spelled with 2 M's, 2 I's, 1 N, 1 E. Please include what your message is about in the subject line. Later, y'all!